Welcome to our deep dive into 18th century India. It's going to be a wild ride. We're talking about a time when the Mughal Empire, the big cheese, is starting to crumble.
Oh,
Guess
no.
what? From those cracks, these amazing regional powers pop up.
Yeah, it's like watching a firework explode, right?
Exactly. Dazzling, a little chaotic, and you never know where the next spark's going to land.
Totally. And you know what often gets overlooked is that the 18th century wasn't just about decline. It was a time of crazy transformation. Imagine a garden, right? With this huge tree that starts to wither.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
But instead of becoming a wasteland, all these new plants, full of color and life, start sprouting up in the shade. That's 18th century India for you.
So our mission today is to get to know these new plants.
Yeah, exactly.
Figure out what makes them unique, how they manage to thrive under the shadow of this fading giant.
We've got a whole toolkit for this. Maps, historical accounts, even economic
It
analyses.
sounds like we're ready to dig in. Where do we start?
Let's kick things off with the successor states. The kingdoms that basically grew out of the Mughal Empire itself. They inherited the systems, but then went their own way. Bengal is a prime example, one of the wealthiest regions in the Mughal Empire, known for its fertile land and booming trade.
Ah, Bengal, the Silicon Valley of 18th century India.
You got it, a magnet for ambitious folks looking to make their fortune.
And the story starts with Murshid Quali Khan in 1717, doesn't it? He was appointed governor of Bengal by the Mughal emperor, but, well, he had other plans.
He was a sly one, that's for sure. He knew how to play the game. On the surface, total loyalty to the Mughals, sending taxes, keeping up appearances. But behind the scenes, he was consolidating power, building his own crew, strengthening Bengal's administration. It's like he was playing poker, keeping his cards close to his chest while secretly stacking the deck in his favor.
And his secret weapon, the revenue system, right? Those zamindars, tell me more about them.
The zamindars were basically local powerhouses, right? Big landowners, tons of influence. Murshid Quali Khan realized to control Bengal, he needed them on his side. So he gives them more freedom to manage their lands in exchange for loyalty and, of course, a steady stream of taxes. It was a win-win.
Smart move. Co-opting the existing power structure to his advantage. But this balancing act couldn't last forever, could it?
You're right about that. The cracks start to show under Alivardi Khan, who takes charge in 1740. This guy was a pragmatist. He saw the Mughal emperor's authority fading and thought, time for Bengal to break free. He practically stopped sending taxes to Delhi altogether and focused on fortifying Bengal's defenses, especially against a growing threat, from the
I
Marathas.
love the Marathas. They're all the way over in Western India. How were they a threat to Bengal?
The Marathas, they were a force to be reckoned with. A confederation of warrior clans expanding their influence across India like nobody's business. Think of them as the venture capitalists of the 18th century, always sniffing out new opportunities, new territories to exploit. They saw Bengal's wealth, its vulnerability, and they wanted a piece of the action.
So, what did Alivardi Khan do? Did he just let them waltz in and take over?
No way. He was a skilled military leader, knew how to pick his battles. He tried resisting the Marathas at first, but realized a head-on fight would be too costly. So he went for a strategic compromise. In 1751, he agreed to pay them chauth, basically protection money.
Ah, I see. So he paid them off to keep the peace.
Yep. And he also gave them orissa.
That must have been a tough pill to swallow. Was it the right call?
Well, it was a pragmatic move. By paying off the Marathas, Alivardi Khan bought himself precious time to consolidate his power within Bengal and deal with internal issues. He knew a united Bengal stood a better chance against future threats, and this deal gave him the breathing room he needed.
So we have Murshid Quali Khan playing the long game, pretending loyalty while amassing power. Then Alivardi Khan making tough calls, making deals with the devil to protect Bengal. But what about his successor, Siraj-ud-Dowlah? Wasn't he the one involved in the famous Battle of Plassey?
Siraj-ud-Dowlah inherited a kingdom on the edge, facing threats from all sides. His reign is a crucial point in Bengal's history, a story of ambition, treachery, and the loss of independence.
And this is where the British East India Company really makes its move, right? They started as traders, but their appetite grew. It's starting to feel like a real-life Game of Thrones.
You're spot on. The company had set up shop in Bengal in the early 1700s, but their ambitions grew as they saw the Mughal authority weakening and these regional powers on a rise. They smelled opportunity, a chance to exploit the chaos and grab power for themselves.
And Plassey in 1757, that's the game changer, right? A battle that reshaped Bengal and had ripple effects across the entire subcontinent. I'm dying to know what happened, but I think that story deserves its own spotlight.
You're absolutely right. Plassey is a pivotal moment, a clash of personalities and ambitions that will have far-reaching consequences.
Okay, let's leave Bengal hanging for now. We've got more ground to cover. Let's move on to another successor state, Hyderabad. What's the story there? Who are the big players?
Hyderabad, that's a different beast altogether. Founded in 1724 by Nizam-ul-Mulk Asaf Jah I, a top-tier Mughal nobleman who basically got fed up with the drama in Delhi, ambitious, skilled, disillusioned with all the Mughal court's shenanigans.
So he just ditched the Mughals and started his own kingdom, just like that.
Well, it wasn't that simple, of course. But yeah, he decided to build his own dynasty in the Deccan.
So how did he do it? What was his strategy?
He was a master strategist. Unlike Murshid Quaili Khan in Bengal, who relied on the existing zamindari system, Nizam-ul-Mulk went for a more centralized approach. He recruited talented individuals from all backgrounds, including Hindus, and gave them key positions in his government. It was all about merit, not just who your daddy was.
That's pretty progressive for the time, right? Promoting inclusivity and meritocracy in a world obsessed with hierarchy.
He was a pragmatist. He knew to rule effectively, you needed everyone on board, not just the elites. And this pragmatic approach extended to his military. He built a strong, disciplined army to defend his new territories.
Oh, and I bet those pesky Marathas were still causing trouble, right?
They sure were. They saw Hyderabad's wealth and strategic location and, well, you know the drill. They launched raids, trying to squeeze out tribute and expand their influence.
So how did Nizam-ul-Mulk handle them? Did he just pay them off like Alavardi Khan did in Bengal?
Nizam-ul-Mulk, he wasn't afraid of a fight. He understood the power of showing strength. He met the Marathas head-on in several battles, and you know what? He inflicted heavy losses, forcing them to back off.
That's bold. So he basically told the Marathas, don't mess with me. Did it work?
For the most part, yeah. He created a buffer zone between Hyderabad and Maratha territory, sort of a no-man's land to keep the peace. But the Maratha threat, it would linger, especially after he died in 1748.
Uh-oh. Sounds like trouble's brewing again. Did his successors keep things stable?
Well, his death triggered a succession crisis. His sons and grandsons, they all wanted the throne, weakened the kingdom, created openings for outsiders to interfere.
Oh, so all that hard work Nizam-ul-Mulk put in, all for nothing because his kids couldn't get along. That's tragic.
Yeah, it goes to show even the strongest systems are vulnerable to human ambition and good old-fashioned family drama. But despite the infighting, Hyderabad eventually found a new leader who restored order.
Okay, so we've got Bengal, the economic powerhouse, struggling to stay independent. And then Hyderabad, built on military might and alliances, dealing with its own set of problems. It's a lot to keep up with.
It is, isn't it? But that's 18th century India for you. Dynamic, complex, all these regional powers like pieces on a giant chessboard making their move, trying to outsmart their opponents.
And we haven't even talked about Awadh yet. I'm curious to see how they fit into all of this.
Awadh's story is a fascinating one, full of political intrigue, military ambition, and that tricky balancing act between Mughal influence and regional aspirations.
Sounds like our deep dive is just getting started.
Oh, you can say that again. So Awadh, right, they were always trying to have it both ways.
Yeah, trying to assert their independence while also staying chummy with the Mughals. It's like trying to have your cake and eat it too. How did they pull that off?
Awadh's story starts in 1722 with this guy, Sadat Khan, a Persian nobleman appointed governor by the Mughal emperor. He knew how to play the court game, that's for sure, kept the emperor happy while quietly building his own power base in Awadh. Imagine a tightrope walker, balancing high above the ground, never missing a step. That was Sadat Khan.
So, like Murshid Quaili Khan in Bengal, he's working both sides of the street.
Pretty common tactic back then. But Sadat Khan wasn't just a smooth talker, he was a sharp administrator, too. He knew a strong revenue system was key, so he made some changes, boosted tax collection, and strengthened Awadh's treasury.
Money talks, right?
Right.
Especially if you're an ambitious kingdom.
You got it. It's like fuel for a rocket ship.
So he understood the political game and the economic game. What were some of the biggest headaches he faced in Awadh?
Those rebellious zamindars, remember them? Powerful local lords always pushing back against authority. Sadat Khan, he couldn't just ignore them, so he played it smart. Negotiated with the cooperative ones, granted them some concessions. But for those who openly defied him, he brought the hammer down.
The carrot and the stick approach. Diplomacy and a little muscle when needed. Did it work?
It did, for the most part. He created a more centralized system that brought stability to Awadh. Sure, there were compromises, and sometimes he had to use force.
So Sadat Khan built the foundation, but what about the rulers who came after him? Could they keep up in this crazy 18th century world?
Well, in 1739, his nephew, Safdar Jung, took over. Capable ruler, but he had new problems to deal with. The Mughal Empire, it was falling apart, and regional powers were getting bolder. Safdar Jung, he was caught in the crossfire.
I can't even imagine trying to keep a wad afloat while navigating Mughal politics. That's got to be stressful.
Yeah. You're telling me. Constant tough choices, picking sides in Mughal power struggles, dealing with Maratha raids, even facing rebellions at home.
So did he manage to survive? Keep a wad from going under?
He did. He was a skilled diplomat, a good military leader, kept Awadh independent, even expanded their territory sometimes. He even became the Grand Vizier of the Mughal Empire for a while.
Wow, that's impressive. He sounds like he could adapt to anything.
He was a survivor, that's for sure. Like a chameleon blending in, using his skills to thrive in that chaotic environment.
So Awadh's story, just like Bengal and Hyderabad, it's all tied up with the Mughals falling apart and ambitious powers like the Marathas making their moves.
Exactly. It's all connected. Internal struggles, external pressures, all shaping Awadh's fate. It's a good reminder that history, it's never a straight line. It's messy, full of twists and turns.
Speaking of messy, we can't forget about the British East India Company. We know they're making waves in Bengal. Were they eyeing Awadh too?
They were focused on Bengal at first, but they were always looking for ways to expand. Awadh, with its prime location and all that fertile land, it was definitely on their radar.
So it's just a matter of time before they turn their attention north, huh? But before we get to that, let's switch gears. Time to talk about the rebels, the kingdoms that said no more to the Mughals. And first up, the Marathas, those warriors we've been mentioning all along.
The Marathas, now that's a story. They went from humble beginnings to one of the most powerful forces in 18th century India. It's a tale of ambition, military skill, and a political system unlike any other.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But before we dive in, give me some background. Where did they come from? What made them so tough?
Picture the Deccan Plateau, western India, rugged hills, valleys, that's where the Marathas came from. Tough, independent people with a long history of fighting. Their rise really kicks off in the 17th century with Shivaji, a warrior king who took on the Mughals.
Shivaji. That name sounds familiar. I always picture him as this almost mythical figure.
He was a brilliant military leader, a master of guerrilla warfare. He used the terrain to his advantage. Forests, hills, perfect for launching surprise attacks on the Mughals. Like a chess player, always thinking a few steps ahead.
But he wasn't just a warrior, right? He built a whole system, too.
Absolutely. He knew you needed strong institutions, created a new administration, reformed the land system, built a loyal army. He was setting the stage for a powerful, independent Maratha empire.
It's amazing how much he accomplished in such a short time. A true revolutionary. What happened after he died? Did his successors keep the momentum going?
Well, Shivaji died in 1680, and that's when things get even more interesting. His successors had a big task ahead of them, expanding their territory while facing a Mughal empire that was trying to make a comeback.
So the Mughals weren't going down without a fight.
Nope. Aurangzeb, the Mughal emperor at the time, he was determined to crush the Marathas. Decades of war followed, brutal and bloody.
What a clash. Who came out on top?
The Marathas, they were tough. Even though the Mughal army was bigger and better equipped, the Marathas just wouldn't give up. They used their knowledge of the land, their guerrilla tactics, and their sheer grit to wear the Mughals down.
So even outmatched, the Marathas found a way to hold their own. What happened in the end?
Well, the war took a toll on both sides. But then, in 1707, Aurangzeb dies, and the Mughal Empire plunges into chaos. The Marathas, they seize the opportunity.
The perfect moment to strike. Did they just go on a conquering rampage then?
They definitely expanded their territory, but their political system, it was unique. Instead of having one emperor, they had this confederacy thing. Different clans, each led by a powerful chieftain called a Sardar, all banded together in a loose alliance.
So it's decentralized, with each Sardar having some independence. Sounds like it could be both a strength and a weakness. How did it work in practice?
It had its perks. The Marathas were flexible, adaptable, could respond quickly to threats. Each Sardar could raise their own army, collect taxes, manage their territory pretty much on their own, made them tough to beat.
But all that independence, it had to cause some friction, right?
For sure. The Confederacy had its share of conflicts and rivalries. Different Sardars, different ambitions, clashing interests.
So always this push and pull between unity and division. How did they keep it together for so long?
The Peshwa played a big role.
The Peshwa. Fill me in. Who were they?
At first, the Peshwa was like the chief minister to the Maratha king, but over time, the position got more powerful. The Peshwa became the real ruler of the Maratha Confederacy, calling the shots on politics and military matters.
So like a CEO gradually taking over from the board of directors?
Exactly. And a lot of the Peshwas were skilled leaders, keeping those Sardars in check, at least most of the time. They were essential in coordinating Maratha military campaigns and expanding their influence.
So we've got this unique confederacy system, powerful Peshwas, the Marathas are on the move, taking territory, battling rivals, even challenging the Mughals. Sounds unstoppable.
It was pretty remarkable. By the mid-18th century, they controlled a huge chunk of India, from the Deccan to Bengal. They were even demanding tribute from the Mughals. The Marathas were the top dogs.
It's like they were playing a high-stakes game of risk and winning. But there had to be some setbacks, right? No one wins forever.
Their biggest challenge came in 1761 at the Third Battle of Panipat.
Panipat. That's a name that sends shivers down your spine.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a turning point in Indian history?
It was a clash of titans, the Marathas at their peak against Ahmad Shah Abdali, the ruler of Afghanistan. Abdali was a major player in North India, and he saw the Marathas as a threat to his own plans.
So a battle for control of North India. Two heavyweights going head-to-head. What happened?
It was a complete disaster for the Marathas. They were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, crushed. It was a devastating blow. Shattered their image of invincibility, marked the beginning of their decline.
Like a champion boxer getting knocked out in the first round.
Yeah.
Changes the whole game. What was the impact of this defeat?
Panipat really weakened the Marathas. Didn't wipe them out completely, but it broke their unity, led to infighting and decline. The Peshwas lost authority, and the Sardars, they became more independent, more focused on their own interests.
So the very system that made them strong, that decentralized structure, it became their downfall. It shows that even the mightiest empires are vulnerable.
It's a lesson that keeps repeating itself throughout history. But even after Panipat, the Marathas remained a force in Indian politics for a while. Their legacy continues to fascinate and inspire. They were a whirlwind that left a permanent mark on India's history.
What a story. Ambition, brilliance, intrigue, and then tragedy. It makes you think even the most powerful empires can crumble. And sometimes internal divisions can be just as dangerous as any enemy.
And as we move on to other rebel states, like the Sikhs, we'll see how their rise, just like the Marathas, was tied to the Mughal decline and the changing power dynamics in 18th century India.
The Sikhs. Their story is one I've always been fascinated by. Known for their warrior spirit, their unique faith, their unwavering fight for independence.
They came from the plains of Punjab in northwest India. Their story begins in the 15th century with Guru Nanak, a spiritual leader who preached equality, devotion, and social justice.
Guru Nanak. Now, there's a name that carries weight. He laid the foundation for Sikhism, right?
Exactly. Guru Nanak's teachings, they resonated with people from all walks of life. He rejected the rigid hierarchies of the time, emphasized spiritual devotion, and stressed the importance of living an ethical life.
A message of unity and equality. Powerful stuff, especially in society divided by caste and a religion.
It was. And his teachings attracted a large following, which eventually evolved into a distinct religious community, the Sikhs.
So from these humble beginnings, how did the Sikhs transform from a spiritual community into a powerful military force?
It's a fascinating journey, one that spans centuries. It involves religious persecution, political upheaval, and the emergence of exceptional leaders who inspired and mobilized the Sikh community.
It sounds like a recipe for a Hollywood blockbuster. Where do we start? Who are some of these pivotal figures?
Well, we have to talk about Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th Sikh guru. He's a key figure in this transformation.
I've heard his name, but I don't know much about him. What made him so significant?
Guru Gobind Singh, he took the teachings of Guru Nanak and, in a way, militarized them. He saw the growing threat from the Mughals, who were increasingly intolerant of Sikhism, and realized that the Sikhs needed to be able to defend themselves.
So it's a shift from passive resistance to active resistance.
Exactly. In 1699, Guru Gobind Singh created the Khalsa.
Khalsa.
It was a brotherhood of warrior saints committed to defending their faith and their community. Think of it as a spiritual army dedicated to fighting oppression and injustice.
Wow, a brotherhood of warrior saints. That's a powerful image. What were some of the defining characteristics of the Khalsa?
They adopted a distinct appearance known as the 5Ks.
The 5Ks. What are those?
Quiche, uncut hair, symbolizing spirituality. Kanga, a wooden comb, representing cleanliness and order. Kara, a steel bracelet, a symbol of strength and commitment. Kirpan, a ceremonial dagger, signifying courage and self-defense. And kachera, loose undergarments for freedom of movement and a reminder of their readiness for battle.
Those 5Ks, they're not just symbols, they're a way of life, a commitment to certain principles, a visible marker of their identity as Sikhs.
Exactly. The Khalsa, they weren't just about defending themselves. They were about standing up for what they believed in, fighting for justice and equality. And they were prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice for their cause.
It's inspiring, but also a little bit intimidating, right?
Yeah, they were known for their ferocity in battle.
But this transformation into a military force, it didn't happen overnight, right?
Yeah.
It must have been a gradual process.
It was. Guru Gobind Singh's leadership was crucial, but the real turning point came after his death in 1708.
So what happened? Who took up the mantle of leadership?
A charismatic figure emerged, Banda Singh Bahadur. He was a fierce warrior and a devoted Sikh who took Guru Gobind Singh's vision and turned it into reality.
Banda Singh Bahadur. The name sounds familiar. Didn't he lead the Sikhs in a series of campaigns against the Mughals?
He did. He was a brilliant military strategist and a ruthless fighter. He led the Sikhs in a series of victories against Mughal forces, capturing territory and establishing a short-lived Sikh state in Punjab.
So they actually managed to carve out their own kingdom, even if it was for a brief time. That's incredible. What happened to Banda Singh Bahadur and what happened to this Sikh state?
Well, Banda Singh Bahadur's reign was short-lived. The Mughals, they were determined to crush this rebellion. They launched a massive counteroffensive, eventually capturing and executing Banda Singh Bahadur in 1716. Brutal stuff.
It sounds like it. A tragic end to a remarkable leader.
Yeah.
But the Sikh spirit, it wasn't extinguished, was it?
No, not at all. Banda Singh Bahadur's martyrdom, it only strengthened the Sikh resolve. They continued to resist Mughal rule, fighting for their freedom and their faith.
So they never gave up, even in the face of persecution and defeat. That's incredible resilience. How did they manage to survive and eventually thrive?
They adapted. They used guerrilla warfare tactics, exploiting their knowledge of the local terrain, launching surprise attacks, and disappearing into the countryside. They were like ghosts, elusive and unpredictable.
A constant thorn in the side of the Mughals. I can imagine that must have been frustrating for the Mughal authorities.
Oh, it was. And then came another turning point. Nadir Shah's invasion of India in 1739.
Nadir Shah. Refresh my memory. Who was he again?
He was the ruler of Persia, a powerful and ambitious conqueror who saw India as ripe for the picking. He swept through North India, sacking Delhi, plundering its wealth, and leaving the Mughal Empire further weakened and demoralized.
The real turning point, you said.
It was. Nadir Shah's invasion, it created chaos, and in the midst of that chaos, the Sikhs saw an opportunity. They capitalized on the power vacuum, expanding their control over Punjab and establishing a new form of political organization, the Missals.
The Missals.
Think of them as independent Sikh confederacies, each controlling a specific territory, but loosely allied with each other. It was a decentralized system, similar in some ways to the Maratha Confederacy.
So a bit like a network of independent city-states, each with its own ruler, but united by a common faith and a shared goal of independence.
Exactly. And this system, it proved to be remarkably effective. The Missals, they were able to resist both Mughal and Afghan incursions, gradually consolidating their control over Punjab.
So the Sikhs, they've gone from a persecuted religious community to a powerful military force controlling their own territory and successfully resisting outside threats. That's quite a journey. What happens next?
Well, the story of the Sikhs, it doesn't end there. The Missals, they continued to evolve, and eventually a new leader would emerge who would attempt to unify them and create a truly independent Sikh empire.
A new leader, to tell. Who are we talking about here?
His name was Ranjit Singh, and he would become known as the Lion of the Punjab. But that, my friend, is a story for another deep dive.
All right, we'll have to leave our listeners hanging for now. But what a journey it's been. From the crumbling Mughal Empire to the rise of regional powers, from Bengal's economic might to the Marathas' military prowess, from Awad's political maneuvering to the Sikhs' unwavering fight for freedom, we've explored the dynamism and complexity of 18th century India.
We've seen how these kingdoms, born out of both opportunity and adversity, shaped the course of Indian history. Their stories, full of ambition, resilience, and struggle, offer valuable lessons about the nature of power, the importance of adaptability, and the enduring human spirit.
And remember, this is just a glimpse into a fascinating and complex period, so I encourage you to delve deeper, explore the sources, and draw your own conclusions. Who knows what hidden treasures you might uncover? Until next time, keep exploring and keep questioning the narratives that shape our understanding of the past.